This is Sandra. She comes in every day with her family, and they're regular customers. And this is what I owe my business to, my customers. We're going to bend over backwards and make sure that we meet their needs. Now, is that how you feel about your government? They bend over backwards to meet your needs and try and take care of you? It's a very different world when it comes to the federal government, doesn't it? A very different world. One thing I want you to know about me, in the Bachmann White House, we will have no czars. There will be no czars. Because that's all we're getting are dictates coming out of Washington. But the good news is we can turn this around, and it's not that tough to do. Like I mentioned, the very first thing would have been, number one, don't give Barack Obama another $2.4 trillion to spend with a debt ceiling increase. That is not that tough to figure out. Because all you do is you pay off the interest on the debt, and then you prioritize your spending. What is so hard to figure out about this? I do. Do you do that?
Yep.
I mean, let's say you are making $50,000 a year. That's a good income. And you spend all of that by June. And you say, hey, that felt pretty good. I think I'm going to spend that much more. And so someone foolishly gives you $50,000 more. You spend that all the way until December 31st. And then you got a real problem on your hands. Because the next year, you owe as much as your salary, plus you owe the interest. So that means you're not going to make it even until June. Sometime before then, you're going to run out of money and hope that that banker will still give you money. But pretty soon the banker is going to say you got to pay up. And then what happens? The sheriff comes. And the sheriff takes all your furniture out of the house and sets it at the end of the driveway, and you got a sale. That's called bankruptcy. That's what happens when you spend money that you don't have. That's what happens to businesses when they spend money they don't have. That's what happens to Uncle Sam when he spends money that he doesn't have. Right, Uncle? That's right. That's why, quite honestly, this isn't even a theoretical discussion anymore. Because you see what is going to happen very, very quickly is that the tables turn. This is not a short-term process. This is going to happen almost like this. Because right now, one thing that we're understanding is that 10 years from now, we're going to be spending more money on interest on the debt that we're accumulating than we are on the entire military defense of the country. When the debt burden gets to that level, something's got to give. What's going to give? Are we going to give up defense?
No.
We're involved right now. Right here, Uncle Sam is saying veterans health care. Are we going to give up on veterans? I'm not. No. We can't give up on our military. We can't give up on our veterans. And so what's happening when we continue to spend this money that we don't have? We're spending away our choices. You see, that's the problem. We're spending the choices. And so it's pretty simple. It begins with cutting back on spending, which we can do. Because there are so many programs out there and so many salaries out there that we could pull back on. Like one example, the Federal Department of Education. The average bureaucrat's salary a few years ago was over $93,000 a year. Do you think we could do without a few Federal Department of Education bureaucrats? How about like a department? How about like a department worth of education bureaucrats? There are so many things that we can do with that, but the other side of that equation is the growth side of the equation. You see, all of us, we sent into Washington $2.2 trillion. I don't know about you. There's nothing left in mine anymore. $2.2 trillion, that's a lot of money. The problem is not that we aren't paying what we need to pay. The problem is, let me ask you this, how much of that do you think Congress spent?
All of it.
Yes, that's right, John. They spent all of it, $2.2 trillion. Here's the big problem. They spent $1.5 trillion more than that. So they're taking in about $2 trillion a year and spending $4 trillion a year. So at this point, the math doesn't end up and you don't have a solution. And so what we have to do is grow the economy. The economy will not grow like the gentleman that I spoke to today, taking their $1 million investment and putting it in Canada rather than the United States. That's just one guy who did it. That represents millions of decisions, economic decisions that get made every day in the country. I asked him, what would your recipe be? He told me this: I would have a flat tax or a fair tax. How many of you think that's a good idea? I do too. Because my opinion is everyone should pay something in taxes, even if it's $1. We all have a stake in this country. Everybody should be paying something. The tax code has got to go. Any agreement there? And that's the good news. In this form of government, we get to choose. The tax code can go. If I am President of the United States, this current tax code is going to go. And instead, we're going to implement, we're going to have a great national discussion, and whether it's a fair tax or whether it's a flat tax, we're going to have something where everyone participates and it's fair to everyone. No sweetheart deals for special interests. Why do you think the tax code is 3.8 million words? Sweetheart deals from one end of the code to the other. That's why. I'm just so excited about what we can do. I'm thrilled about what we can do. Because if once we repeal Obamacare, and by the way, we will repeal Obamacare. You have my word that we're going to repeal Obamacare.